Preston and I yesterday had discussed and said it's about as close to the biggest game of the year as you're going to get. And I'll be interested today, 803-404-6100, to see where you find yourself with this basketball season, as we are now just 29 days out from baseball season. Have you already kind of flipped the calendar? Have you already now started glimpsing into the starting pitching rotation, what the lineup's going to look like? And did last night shove you even further into that realm of looking at what baseball could be and leaving basketball behind? So welcome. Good morning to you. Hope you are up and moving around as we head into January 16th, a Thursday morning. Again, a lot to get into. We'll be joined here shortly, I believe. Jen, are we expecting Preston? Preston is fighting it. He is battling, not feeling well, but I believe he is expected to join us at some point.
We're working on the techno side right now.
All right, so Preston will weigh in with his thoughts and what he thought from last night, a game again in which South Carolina 7 of 16 from three-point range, 18 of 23 from the foul line, but not enough. And again, we'll let you hear a lot of Lamont. We'll hear a lot of Lamont Paris, a game that I'm typically, and this also comes from someone who has coached high school basketball and coached a good level of basketball. I'm typically not someone to complain about officiating. You make plays, you overcome the officials, you overcome the circumstances, even at its worst, of what is going on in a game. But even I last night had to see some of those calls and some of the things, maybe not the calls, the non-calls. Both teams were whistled for 18 fouls last night. The fouls were dead even last night, but that wasn't really, to me, part of the story. It was the non-calls against Vanderbilt that I thought were the interesting part. The fouls that should have been called, that should have gone against the Commodores, that did not get called, and we'll discuss that a little bit as well. Again, an interesting game, and one that I'm going to be intrigued to see if it turns people away, if it moves people away from South Carolina basketball or keeps them going. I believe we have the one and only Preston Thorne joining us this morning here via some internet lines. And Mr. Thorne, a tough one to swallow, as we heard Lamont Paris there in the opening.
Bill, everybody get on the line. Every single one of you all get on the line. Don't bring a ball to practice tomorrow. Every single one of you all. I need Cam. I need CMB. Arden, everybody get on the line. I don't want to hear it. Don't bring a ball to practice tomorrow. Just get on the line.
So you're and we'll play some more of this 25 turnover, 16 in the first half. You could hear kind of a exasperated Lamont Paris in that opening, talking about the basketball gods almost smiling down, shining down on them to even be in that game at that point. And certainly the way things were playing out, that's not what you can have at all.
Bill, you keep trying to reference these things. I don't want to hear it. 25 turnovers, get on the line. We're running all practice. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear anything about the refs. I don't want to hear anything about the basketball gods. I don't want to hear nothing. Get on the line.
There you go. All right. So Preston ready to just do some running. The old-fashioned, I believe it was Brett Jones, now Dutch Fork coach, Preston, back in his JV coaching days at Lexington. I believe it was a Friday night game we had, and he told us to just show up on Saturday morning, just bring the running shoes. So I've been there. I've been a part of something like that.
Bring your running shoes, tie them tight. Maybe some extra socks so you don't get blisters. Get on the line.
So there was that last night, and we'll get more into that, let you hear more from Lamont Paris as we roll through the morning and get into that. Sam Darnold yesterday, Preston Thorne, you wanted to get into that. What did Mr. Darnold do yesterday that does not involve getting on the line?
Well, we have a dilemma in Skull Nation. We have something that we have to try and figure out what we're going to do here with our newfound quarterback conundrum that we have into. Yesterday we talked about Tomlin. What's the ceiling? What's the floor with Tomlin? And I think myself and Skull Nation have another problem that we have to figure out with our quarterback situation.
We'll get into that a little bit this morning as we roll along. Women's basketball tonight. Again, you can hear we got a lot going on tonight. We'll hear more from Lamont Paris, 6 o'clock. We'll have Carolina Calls with Lamont right here on 107.5 The Game. The women will take on Alabama tonight. 6:30 tip time in Tuscaloosa. 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off on WOMG 98.5 is where you can hear that game. Should be able to hear it for a broad distance, but we will have that for you right here on 98.5 WOMG. And again, Carolina Calls with Lamont Paris. We'll hear from him. Interesting night of basketball. Kind of a quiet night, if not for the South Carolina game. It would have been a very quiet night. Preston Thorne, the SEC, taking a slight breather after a big night of basketball on Tuesday night. You did have one ranked versus ranked contest last night. Tennessee rallies in the second half after a very close first half. 74-56. They knock off number 23 Georgia. Did you get into that at all?
I did not. I was disgusted. I didn't want to watch any more basketball after last night. I did not watch. I was good on basketball for last night.
So you heard me ask the question, and that's going to be part of it. We discussed this yesterday. We had a texter weigh in that they thought if there was a loss last night, it may cause more fans to lose interest, kind of push fans closer to baseball season. Is that what you foresee happening here?
I don't know about that. That could be the future. There may be some hope for optimism. I'm just talking about last night's game. PU.
803-404-6100.
Get on the line, Bill.
That is Preston Thorne calling for the team to head to the line to do some running this morning as we get you up and get you going again. We'll get into that from last night, get into a little bit more football talk as well. Gamecocks, we've covered a few different aspects of what's going on. Also, by the way, we'll get into this, some news on, I believe it's been so long I've forgotten how to say his name, South Carolina signee in basketball, Oku Federico. What if South Carolina adds another post player late in mid-January, in February, Preston Thorne? Does that solve any issues, or does he have to get on the line with the rest of them, even though he was not on the bench last night?
Hey, if you saw, I need the whole recruiting class. Eli Ellis, you get on the line too. Everybody's on the line.
Everybody's on the line. All right. Well, we got a fired up Preston Thorne, who's playing a little under the weather this morning. We'll get him up and going, and we will roll on, talk some basketball. Let you listen to a little bit more from Lamont Paris as to what he had to say last night. 6:10 here on your Thursday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, you're listening to The Early Game. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. Here we are. 2025 is upon us, and you're thinking about a lot of things you want to do this year. Lose weight, eat healthier, sleep better. I get it. Those are all important things. But maybe one of the things you really want to do is refinance your home or move. Either one is perfectly great, but the first thing you need to do is contact First Palmetto Bank and Jacob Crowder and see what products, see what interest rates, see what money you can get. That's what you need to do first. Call Jacob Crowder, the mortgage guru, 803-719-1005. Again, it's 803-719-1005. Something like the community reinvestment product. See, you need to call and learn about this. It's for Richland County, Blythewood, Northeast, Southeast, and the I-20 corridor, where right now they are offering a 4.99% interest with a 5.075 APR on a 30-year fixed mortgage. Call for more information today. Call the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder.
Starting off your morning the right way, no major slowdowns, no tie-ups to speak of, and we welcome that. 58 will be our high today. Sunny skies, overnight low of 31. Could see some wind gusts coming in, some higher wind gusts. And then tomorrow, sunny, 58 for the high, overnight low 41. Before that, morning rain kicks in on Saturday and a high of 58. Maybe some morning showers on Sunday, 53 will be the high. Right now, we are sitting at a chillier start. It's 27 on 107.5 The Game.
6:17 as we get you up and get you going. Hopefully, your morning going better than the South Carolina men's basketball team, who Preston Thorne has already demanded to just get on the line. Just get on the line. Don't worry about the basketball. Don't worry about anything else. We're just going to run. A couple of texters agreeing with Preston. An anonymous texter weighs in. Says, Preston agreed. The rest of the day, they need to carry the ball with them. The old football analogy there, Preston. Just carry the ball with you.
Get on the line, carry the ball with you. If the ball drops, we're back on the line.
I was asking, where are people now with this? Another texter weighs in. Gamecock men's basketball season officially over now. Also, a texter weighs in. When the announcers go on and on about the lack of charge calls against Vanderbilt, you know it's bad. And Preston, it was a game that, look, in all seriousness, that was there for South Carolina to take. They had a lot of opportunities. It was a strange game to watch. I don't know, aside from the turnovers, how you consumed it and just trying to wrap your brain around what you were watching as it was happening.
It felt like watching a JV basketball game, because just the herky-jerky pace of it, the frantic nature, the ball bouncing everywhere, people falling on the floor. It did not feel as if these were two SEC teams, and that was obviously us, but Vandy was not much better. Put it like this. If it was not South Carolina, if it was not my team, there's no way I would have watched that game last night.
Lamont Paris, after the game, talking about the competitive nature of his team. Here is what he had to say following the game.
Yeah, well, we got some touches in there. They stripped the ball. I never seen so many clean strips in my entire life. It's just a factual statement, so I don't think I can get in trouble for saying that. I never seen so many clean strips in my whole life. I've been doing this for a long time. I just never been on a team. Now, I've also never seen 25 turnovers, I don't think, that we did. So, but we got the ball around there. It was, a lot of activity. They fronted. They fronted, and then we would flash high, and we weren't competitive. I just don't think we competed to get a catch. That's why we got bogged down with some of the plays that we wanted to run to get the ball inside. Start off with a catch on the wing, and we couldn't get a catch on the wing. They ran through a couple of them for layups, trying to get a catch on the wing. So we started going to other stuff that didn't involve a catch on the wing, and it just was, they outcompeted us. They were more active than us. I just thought they were. They just were significantly more active than us, and then we didn't play well. We just so many turnovers. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time getting over how many times we turned the ball over. It's more than a third of the time that we got the ball, we turned it right back over. That's bananas.
Yeah. I'm sorry to laugh. I really am. But Preston, that is a coach that even in his first year didn't sound as exasperated, as frustrated. I don't know what other word to use. I mean, he's not thrilled with the officiating. He's not thrilled, and I think he's got a slight point there, but he's also not putting it all on the officiating. He's admitted, and you heard him. He's just, I'm intrigued, and I'd be interested to know what it's going to be like at practice today in reference to the "we weren't competitive" comment, Preston.
So from a basketball standpoint, I don't understand all of the ins and outs of basketball the way I do of football. But what he just said, again, that's why I love listening to Lamont, because he made sense. Some of those passes to the wings, first the passes looked lazy. They didn't have a lot of zip on them. And then they were able to get so many steals because guys, much like football, were just waiting for the ball to get to them instead of actually getting the ball. So when Lamont puts it in that frame of reference, I'm like, oh, that's what was happening. And it makes total sense. And it felt like that was happening over and over and over again. Again, 25 turnovers. That's the idea that this game was even winnable towards the end of the game is probably they did not deserve to win this game if they would have pulled it out.
We'll get into our fart analytics coming up here in the next segment. I think personally, when you look at the analytics and you take out one particular letter of the fart portion, you're like, oh, okay, I see why they were in position to win. It adds up. It makes sense. There is one statistic, and it is those turnovers. So the question becomes for me, Preston, and I'm trying to figure this out because we talked about it after Saturday's game. Well, maybe Jamari Thomas not being there as the point guard is a positive thing. Maybe it allows Lamont Paris to run things the way he wants to, maybe a slowed down, modified version of what we saw last year. However, last night, you see your 2 point guards, Jacoby Wright and Marsh Ugasuk, each with multiple turnovers. Jacoby Wright with 3, Ugasuk with 4. Zach Davis had 5. Colin Murray-Boyles had 5. So, I think the question becomes, how much do you place on the point guard, which would have been my position? How much do you place specifically on the rest of the team in terms of the being competitive? And as you just said, just coming off of screens, coming to the ball, making strong passes.
That's a tough one. That's a tough because, again, he's talking about the clean strips. Those were in the post. Then you're talking about the passes. Those were from the point guard. When you have 25 turnovers, that's enough for everybody to get blamed. That's not just one part. And that's a problem because when everything is going wrong, it's hard to fix anything.
803-404-6100. A couple of y'all weighing in. It's not everybody. Let me be clear on this. It's not everybody. It is everybody texting in. But I know as we go through the morning, this is why I'm kind of interested in Preston. This is why you and I yesterday labeled this the biggest game of the year. We labeled it a couple different things because I'm already seeing on our text line this morning, I don't know if it's apathy or anger just yet. You and I, last week, we had a meeting and we kind of discussed what could happen here if South Carolina was to lose this game and the direction of the fan base. And this was the biggest thing for me, was going to be the direction of the fan base, not just long term, but really more specifically this year with us sitting here in mid-January. It was this time last year we were starting to tell everybody, hey, go check out those bracketologies on Monday. Get involved. Start looking at who your second-round match could be. Start getting fired up. Make sure you're there at the CLA in February and early March for these games. This is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm already seeing on the text line, several of y'all, you're checking out, which is fine. I'm not telling anybody they're wrong. Walt weighs in and says, am I seriously supposed to tune in to another men's basketball game this year? 26 turnovers seems to be more of a bad player talent issue. Gene does at least help us out a little bit here. In honor of Gamecock Larry this morning, he's going with pudding and grits for breakfast. So it does seem like a good morning for that, to maybe get a little Gamecock Larry in our life. But, Preston, that's going to be the next discussion point here, is where does the fan base go from here? 10-7 on the season, 0-4 in conference play. You got the non-ranked game on Saturday against Oklahoma, a game that South Carolina will be an underdog in that one as well. But they should be able to go and be competitive in that game. I really think they could be competitive in the vast majority of games they play. I just don't know if they can win them. But Preston, I've read several of the text messages, and this was our concern, right? That the fan base, if South Carolina were to lose last night, however it may happen, just goes, all right, that's it. Baseball season, 29 days away. All right, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, it's hard not to argue against that. But really quickly, Gene, it wasn't 26 turnovers, it was 25. Let's not make it worse than it was. It was 25. It wasn't 26. That being said, if the team is not competitive, if the team is playing sloppy basketball, if they're not necessarily a likable bunch, or there's nothing to really grab onto, it's difficult. It's a difficult ask to ask fans to tune in week in and week out.
Yeah, that's going to be my next big question with this team. Now, by the way, Oklahoma lost last night, 77-73. They lost to Texas in the Red River rivalry basketball version of that. That game was played in Norman last night. So that is now 4 straight losses for the Sooners. They have now fallen to 0-4 in conference. Three teams here as we wrap up really the week portion of this week's schedule going into the weekend. 3 teams, Oklahoma, Arkansas with John Calipari, not sure that makes any of you happier, and South Carolina all 0-4 in conference. LSU and Texas each with 1 victory here in conference, Preston. And so do we want to go ahead? Do we want to go ahead and start to label whatever Saturday's game is, or do you see the fan base already going, nah, I'm good, it's baseball season?
Ooh, I like again. We'd have to take the temperature of the fan base. I don't know. I think we rightfully labeled the Vanderbilt game the biggest game of the season, and I think we're going to see the fallout from losing that game in that fashion. I always have the saying, when you lose a primetime game, more eyes are on you, and for people to watch that brand of basketball, I don't think people would have been very happy if we would have won. But then when you lose on top of that, it's tough. That's a tough ask.
803-404-6100. Again, we'll get into our analytics from last night. If you're just staring at the analytics and you take one specific analytic out, one specific stat, you're like, pretty good game. Unfortunately, that stat that Preston will get to in the next segment, well, it was a biggie, and there were a lot of them. And it probably cost the game last night. We'll talk about that, break things a little bit more down here as we analyze South Carolina's 66-63 loss to Vanderbilt last night in Nashville, dropping them to 10-7 overall, 0-4 in conference play. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market, where you've heard me talk about it for a long time. You know how I feel about them, whether it is the steaks, whether it is the fish, or whether it is their breakfast items. That's right. Sometimes people forget about their Southern-style biscuits. Absolutely phenomenal with some strawberry jelly. Maybe it's the thick-cut bacon. Maybe it's the snacks that are so delicious. Whatever it is at Old Timey Meat Market, you're going to find it. So visit one of their 3 locations. St. Andrews Road in Irmo, the South Congaree store, or the Lexington store that I am always at, purchasing some of their great pork, their steak, their chicken, their beef, whatever it is. Old Timey Meat Market has you taken care of. So as we sit here on a Thursday morning and you look ahead to the weekend, and actually I believe it's supposed to be nice tonight, if you're thinking about grilling out, there's only one place to stop and experience that great food that Old Timey Meat Market has ready for you. Again, South Congaree, St. Andrews Road in Irma, or the Lexington store. Stop by today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Still looking pretty good out there on the highways. We are not seeing any major tie-ups, no slowdowns, no accidents to report, and we welcome that this morning. Hope Thursday morning commute goes well. We are looking for some kind of windy conditions today, 58 for that high, overnight low of 31. 57 tomorrow and Saturday. Today and tomorrow, sunshine for sure. And then we'll see some rain coming in on Saturday. But right now, it's a chillier start, 26 on 107.5 The Game.
But, you can't turn the ball over like that. I think we just have to go back to the drawing board and 15 of them were just steals. So I think we have to go back to the drawing board on once you beat your man practicing someone from behind smacking down at the ball really hard and then still keeping the ball to go up to the rim, because I'd say the vast majority of them ended up that way. So that'll be on us as coaches to go back and really practice being really strong with the ball.
There's a lot to unpack from what Lamont Paris had to say post game, because I get it. I get it. Preston, in all seriousness, last year, number one, you had a point guard that was big and burly and could muscle other guards around. Talon Cooper, with his size, with kind of his width and girth, if you will, could muscle people around. He was hard to take the ball from. He was an old man. He was the old man YMCA game that knew all the tricks of the trade and knew how to do that. And you don't have that this year. And I have to laugh because what I hear from Lamont is a combination of we've got to be better, but he also says smacking down really hard. In my opinion, implying he felt Vanderbilt might have been causing fouls. Now, one stat from last night, Preston, as we get into our fart analytics, one stat. Vanderbilt entered this game as the league leader in steals. They averaged over 10 steals per game. South Carolina actually was dead last in steals per game. Vanderbilt came in averaging 10.3 steals per game. South Carolina was averaging 4.9 steals per game. And by the way, turnovers, if you're just wondering, turnover margin, the Gamecocks came into this game in turnover margin at a negative 1.1. Negative 1.1 in this game in terms of turnovers. Vanderbilt was second in the SEC at plus 5.8. So there was a discrepancy there, Preston, between steals and also what you had with turnovers. We got him? We still got him there? No, we lost Preston. All right, I'll tell you what, Jen, let's get out to the phone lines where Rich wants to weigh in this morning. Richie, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Doing well, Bill. How are you?
Doing good.
Yep. This team can be very frustrating to watch at times, but because they've shown a propensity to do some things really well, hence the previous game before last night. But whenever we struggle offensively, of course, and defensively as well, we're just, defensively speaking, are just, and overall, just too weak. I think I mentioned that last week. We seem to be, besides with the exception of Nick Pringle and CMB, we seem to just get pushed off of spots. We defensively out front, it looks like, you know as well as I do, Bill, I'll use a football analogy here. The low man always wins. So if we don't sit down out front and play defense, the offensive guy seems to just go right by our defender with ease. And, of course, if we don't help after that, and we don't help the helper, because if we rotate over and we help down low, that seems to open up, a kick out for an open three, which we seem to give up, or, an easy drive to the basket when we don't help, which is often the case as well. That can be very frustrating, and that's simple, just basketball fundamentals. Offensively, the same thing I see. It's just simple playing the game of basketball. I think a lot of this, and Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of our guys now in middle and high school, and I'm going to get in trouble with some of my trainer friends, they go through some individual workouts and training sessions, and they get their spots. They practice getting to their spots, and they get in the shots up. But what happens in games whenever – and that's fine and well. I think there's great value in that. But what happens in games when there's 9 other people on the floor and there's 5 other people on the other team, and what happens when you can't get to your spots? Then you have to adjust. You have to be able to make the simple basketball plays. Lamont Paris says last night, we can't even make a simple entry pass to the wing, therefore we can't make an entry pass to the low post, which is where our strengths are. And so if we can't make, if we're overplaying on the wing, if we don't V-cut and get open, or if we don't, if there's not a back screen, we just go back door. We don't seem to do a lot of that as well. And then we make the same passes over and over, which leads to turnovers. How many times are we going to try and throw a pocket pass, to a guy cutting and throw it at a seat, or throw it out of bounds? That play is obviously not there. So can we adjust on the fly? That seems to have been, in my opinion, what I've seen. We seem to struggle with those things.
You bring up an interesting point. Thank you for the phone call, Richie. Preston, he brings up an interesting phone call about strength. And I don't know if it's strength, like if it's pure weightlifting strength. But South Carolina did go, and I mentioned that. You heard me mention that with Talon Cooper, big, burly, kind of a wide body. You also had B.J. Mack, who was just, big and physical and would move you around. South Carolina did go from that, big physical guys, to really, Preston, kind of the longer, leaner, thinner guys, if you will.
The team looks completely different. And you notice that. And I was thinking that as I was watching the game last night, is that this team, if you was to pick them I always do the kickball test. If you was picking players athletically, you would pick this team over last year's team, because these guys look more like basketball players. They're tall, they're long, they're rangy. They look like they are better athletes. They are better athletes. But I would always caution people, because you're a better athlete does not mean you're better at your particular sport. And I think, to the caller's point, I think we're seeing a lot of this. These guys are better athletes than some of those other guys last year in the technical sense, but they're not better basketball players, and that's what we're seeing play out.
So, Preston, we get into our FART analytics, patent pending. You're really working hard on that for us, and we are very appreciative of it. Mm-hmm. You heard Lamont Paris talk about the turnovers, and you also heard him talk about 15 steals by Vanderbilt. And I think you heard me mention that Vanderbilt entered the game as the league leader in steals, averaging over 10 a game. As a matter of fact, I believe they are the only team averaging double digits. I take that back. There's 4 teams: Mississippi State, Mississippi, Missouri, and Vanderbilt averaging 10 steals. All of them are right there at 10, 10.2, 10.1, 10.1, and 10 even for Mississippi. But that's the turnovers, the steals last night. That's the analytic of the FART analytics that is the one that changes the narrative of this game. Because if you go through everything else, you look at it, you're like, not too bad of a game statistically for South Carolina.
In fact, if you look at it, South Carolina out-rebounded Vandy by 12.
Exactly.
So, if you look at them, their missed free throws were comparable. Neither of them were great, but about 76% for both of them. Assists, South Carolina had 10, Vandy had 12. South Carolina had 12 more rebounds, so they were competing in that aspect. But then the turnovers was such an outsized proportion, that number. And Bill, I don't know, I'm sure that you have video guys that can do this, but I'd be interested to know the breakdown on the steals that were on the ball as opposed to on the pass. If that makes any sense, because I'm interested to see, because it felt like I just learned something from our caller, Richie. When they were trying to make that pocket pass, it just kept happening over and over again. But then also, guys were just getting the ball taken from them, and so they were getting it done all kinds of ways.
For those wondering, and this is kind of interesting to me because, yes, there were a lot of turnovers, 25. Vanderbilt only had 22 points off of turnovers. Now, that's a lot. It's a lot. However, South Carolina had 17 points off of Vanderbilt turnovers. So an interesting portion of this that I think Lamont Paris, I'd like to hear Lamont's opinion of this as he goes back and watches the film, is not what Vanderbilt was able to do with the turnovers. It's what South Carolina was not able to do with those possessions when you talk about the fact that Vanderbilt had 12 turnovers. 12 turnovers, and the Gamecocks get 17 points off of them. Vanderbilt had 25 turnovers, but only resulted in 22 points. And again, so it's not like Vanderbilt was capitalizing on the turnovers. What the turnovers were doing was stopping South Carolina from creating more opportunities for themselves. 56 shots total for Vanderbilt last night in this game. They're 23 of 56. South Carolina last night, 45 shots. So you think about the 25 turnovers and an 11-shot discrepancy. 56 for Vanderbilt, 45 for South Carolina. You get up 11 more shots, and you make 3 of them, and we're sitting here talking about the season being extended at least another game, maybe another week. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. Preston's got a question. What was the worst sports punishment? Was it just as simple as get on the line? Was there something else? We'll find out when we come back. You're listening to the early game. A reminder tomorrow, all day long, starting with us, 6 a.m., Preston and I will be at Pro Swing, 4708 Forest Drive over in Columbia. But the whole station will be there, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow. You can swing by and hang out with us, with the guys from Pro Swing, hit a few golf balls, hang out, chit-chat about basketball or women's basketball or baseball or whatever's on your mind. But come on out and hang with us tomorrow starting at 6 a.m., bright and early. So if you're heading into work, you want to swing by, see just how short I am, just how tall Preston is, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. tomorrow, we will be out at Pro Swing, 4708 Forest Drive in Columbia. 803-404-6100 as Preston has a question for you. Let's hear your answers. What do you got, Preston Thorne?
What I want to know is that we've all been parts of games like this. If you've played team sports, then you've been part of a game like this. And what I want to know is, what was your worst sports punishment? Was it just simply get on the line and we'll run till I feel satisfied? Was it don't bother to bring the basketballs today because you're not going to need them? Whatever it was, you've been a part of this game, a game like this. Your coaches have punished you. What was some of your worst sports punishments?
So you were on a really successful high school team, won a state championship your senior year. Mm-hmm. You got one that Coach McKissick would go to that was a go-to, because football is a little bit different. I know at Lexington they would complain they'd have to do something, I think, like a crab walk at times. Coach Satterfield would get upset. Obviously, the running was always one. You got a specific punishment for something that would occur in practice, or one that you remember specifically after a game?
Yeah, I believe we called the crab walks. We called that the scalded dog.
Oh no!
And I didn't know if it was scald the dog or scalded dog. Never could quite figure that out because I was so tired whenever they were telling us to do them. But one time we had to do the length of the field, scalded dogs for every point that we gave up. And that was during the state championship year. I think we gave up 10 points to a team that we weren't supposed to give up, I guess, any points to. And to make a point, we had to do scalded dogs for 100-yard increments.
Was it just the defense, or did the offense have to do it? Because I feel like that's a breaking of team chemistry when the offense is looking over going, we didn't do this. We got to do. We didn't allow points. We got to do this with them.
No, it was just the defense. It was just the defense. In fact, it was a breaking of team chemistry because we would always be looking at the offense running their little cute, perfect plays or whatever they were doing, and we'd be on the other field scalding the dogs, or whatever it was called.
Our good buddy Tracy Corley Pool Solutions weighs in. Do you remember this one? Did you ever do the bull in the ring?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a reason why we don't do that anymore.
that punishment was a little too extreme?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think we had one. I mean, aside from just, as simple as, all right, everybody on the sideline, get on the line or whatever. I don't think we specifically had one for basketball that really stood out. We at Lexington would run 8-6-4-2s. You'd sideline over and back is one. You'd have to run 8 of those, and Bailey Harris would put on the clock. I think he put 60 seconds for the 8. So you had to do 8 of those in 60 seconds. You'd get like a 1-minute breather. Then you had to run a 6 in 45 seconds, a 1-minute breather, 4 in 30 seconds, 1-minute breather, and a 2 in 15 seconds. And then you were done. And obviously, if you didn't make your time, the whole team ran again. But I don't know if we had anything. Like I said, I specifically remember the JV game with Brett Jones, where we had to practice on a Saturday morning that we were all terrified to go to the gym and have to practice. But I don't think with Coach Harris we ever had a practice that we were fearful of going to. Did you have a practice that you were fearful of going to?
Yeah, actually I did. Baseball. There was these things called polls.
Yeah.
And coaches are so creative. We're just going to run the poles, and you're going to run from pole to pole in the outfield. You sprint to one, and then you jog to the other one, and then you sprint to the other one, and then you jog to the other one. And then they tell you, hey, you're not jogging fast enough. And you're like, but I'm jogging. And it's a big thing. Yes. There were plenty of practice where I was like, I don't want to do this today. 803-404-6100.
You got this from Ron in Lake Marion. high school baseball coach was an alcoholic. His girlfriend left him, and at our next practice, he made us run laps until we agreed to help him find a new one. Yeah, there's that. There is.
You never know.
Joe weighs in. Suicides on a football field from one goal line to the other. That was in 1990. My legs are still sore to this day. Yeah. Another texter weighs in. Noah says 100 sprints before a playoff game in baseball. It doesn't sound very, very like
I
a
need
lot
the rest of the story. Why were y'all doing them before the game?
Yeah.
Was somebody acting up on the bus or something? Well, I need to know what the story is.
Robert weighs in. 200 yards worth of frog splashes 2 days in a row, but it was worth cursing out my high school offensive coach. He wasn't likable.
Anytime that any exercise named after an animal hurts, it all hurts. Frog splashes, bear crawls, they all suck.
We will get to more of those. Keep sending those in. We'll get to some other stuff here this morning as well as we roll along. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
No major tie-ups right now. We don't have any reports of accidents, and we'll welcome that for the rest of your Thursday morning commute. It's going to be kind of breezy today. Sunny, 58. That'll be our high. 31, that overnight low. 57 tomorrow, keeping that sunshine rolling. Overnight low of 39. Saturday, that's when the rain comes in, and looking for high of 57. And the rain will continue maybe into Sunday morning a little bit before that clears out. We stay in the mid-50s for the weekend before we get back into some colder temperatures next week. So soak it in while you can, except right this minute where it's kind of cold and 26 on 107.5 Game.
Very, very tough loss to swallow. I mean, and particularly when you had, and that was my message at halftime, was that with 16 turnovers, God forbid we have a chance. The basketball God shined on us to make the game only a 7-point game at halftime, guys. Whoa. I'm not even sure if we deserved that, but that's what we got. So we come out in the second half only to turn it over, cut it all the way down to 9 turnovers in the second half for a total of 25. Just, you can't do that. You can't play basketball and win that way. You can't have two guys that have 5 turnovers. Yeah. We scored 37 points in the second half on minus the 9 turnovers. So you're getting what you want. At the end of the game, we didn't. We had the ball point blank right around the rim twice and didn't get anything out of it. But,
those were the words of Lamont Paris last night. The Gamecocks drop a key game just in terms of Preston. Again, this morning I'm reading the text line. I'm watching a little bit of our live stream here where people are weighing in. I think the biggest fear for me is and I say biggest fear because as we do this job, and we talked about this you and I talked about this last week off air, is where people would go mentally with this basketball team. What would be the interest level if South Carolina didn't survive that first 3-game stretch? And then what if they lost to Vanderbilt? And 25 turnovers is ugly, but I think, the biggest fear factor here is we get into February and Colonial Life Arena is a cavern. There's nobody there to watch the games, and there's no support. And unfortunately, I think what last night did, and to do it with 25 turnovers, unfortunately, what it does is it creates apathy towards this year. Maybe not toward the program as a whole, but toward this year's team. And as I'm watching the text line this morning, watching the live stream this morning, people are saying, yeah, last night might have been the game that checks them out for this coming season. They're looking ahead to baseball.
I think that's fair. I mean, if you feel like that, I can't dispute you feeling like that. I'm glad Lamont used those words because I used them and I thought, man, maybe that was a little bit strong, but he was right. 25 turnovers, they didn't deserve to be in a position to win the game, and yet they still were there. And then they found a way to not get it done. And so that's a tough spot. And this goes back to the earlier conversation where we were talking about the fan support. And listen, fans, we've proven that if the team is winning and the team is showing up, that Columbia will show out for this team. But if the team is not playing well and the team is not competing according to the coach and the team is not doing all these things, that's hard to show up for.
We'll see where they go. Oklahoma on Saturday. Oklahoma falls last night 77-73 to Texas in a very late game. Last night was a triple header for the SEC network, 6, 8, and 10. And Texas-Oklahoma had the 10 o'clock game, and Texas wins that one. They go into Norman. So the Sooners and the Gamecocks both 0-4 in conference play. So something has to give on Saturday, I reckon. You can't end in a tie. So somebody has to pick up a conference win. But I don't know what that means. And I don't know, what South Carolina coming off of that Auburn game, Preston, where maybe people had hope and said, oh, okay, you continue to play that way, we can win some games in conference. And let me go back to the stats from last night, from our analytics. They're pretty even You mentioned it. South Carolina was 18 of 23 from the foul line. Vanderbilt was 16 of 21, so there was only a 2-shot difference there. Vanderbilt was 4 of 21 from three-point range. South Carolina was 7 of 16. The Gamecocks out-rebounded Vanderbilt last night, 37-25. As a matter of fact, South Carolina had 10 offensive rebounds, getting 2 extra opportunities to 8 for Vanderbilt. But the stat that stands out, 25 turnovers last night for the Gamecocks. 4 turnovers from Morris Ugasuk. 5 turnovers for Colin Murray-Boyles. Jacoby Wright had 3 turnovers. Zach Davis had 5 turnovers. Nick Pringle had 3 turnovers. Arden Conyers, Cam Scott, and Benjamin Bosman-Verdonk each had a turnover. Preston, I've done a lot of basketball in my time. I don't know if I've ever seen a game. Where every player that plays has a turnover.
It's called a team effort, Bill. It's hard to get 25 turnovers without everybody getting one. Everybody got in on the action. That might be. Maybe this will be a one for the record books. A
consistency. That's what you're looking for is consistency.
Team. We were worried about team chemistry. It's almost like they looked around last night. Well, I don't want to be the one player who doesn't have a turnover.
See, Bill. This is why when you tell everybody to get on the line, and you can say, Benjamin, you only had 1, but you're on the line too. Everybody, get on the line. Every single one of you contributed to this.
We'll circle back to that in just a second. One other stat from last night that I mentioned in the previous hour that, again, stands out. 25 turnovers is bad. Everybody agrees with that. Everybody having on a team, everybody that played, and they all played, everybody that played last night, all eight players played at least 10 minutes. Cam Scott was the low man there with 13 minutes, 2 seconds. Colin Murray-Boyles led the way, 34 minutes, 42 seconds. Everybody had a turnover, but the statistic is not maybe what you would think, because you would think, well, turnovers lead to points off of turnovers. Vanderbilt only had 22 points off of turnovers. So it's not like they took their 15 steals and the 10 just throwaways and converted them into points that beat South Carolina. Vanderbilt only had 22. South Carolina had 17 points off of the 12 turnovers that Vanderbilt committed. The difference in this game, and it's pretty simple, South Carolina had 45 shots, 45 attempts at the rim. Because of 25 turnovers, Vanderbilt had 56. There was an 11-shot difference, and I said it in the last hour, and I'll say it again, Preston, and we'll get back to get on the line because your buddy, Langston Morris, sent us something that we might need a little clarification on. But 56 shots to 45. That 11-shot difference. South Carolina, obviously, if you take 11 shots, if you have 11 more shots and you make 2 of them, today we're talking about a 67-66 victory. I know that's kind of a bad analogy, a bad comparison because things happen and things change there. But 11-shot difference, Preston Thorne, that's where the 25 turnovers stand out.
Well, also, when you take that, some of those turnovers were steals underneath the basket when they were going up for pretty much point-blank shots. Yeah, those you can almost would have counted those, but the players were not able to hold on to the ball and they weren't able to finish on very almost point-blank shots on a couple of occasions.
Very true. Very true. 803-404-6100. Preston Thorne has asked a question of you this morning. Worst punishment. Jacob from Lexington. Now, he says Lexington, so I always wondered, did I coach Jacob? Because he says high school basketball coach. I don't know if this would be Brett Jones at White Knoll or Bailey at Lexington or me, but I don't remember doing something like this. But I did see this happen in football one time. He says his high school basketball coach made the entire team do suicides while I sat on the bench and watched because I didn't hustle during the game. Everyone was not happy with me.
That's a tough one. That's an old tried and true. Make everybody else run, and you look at it, we're running for you. It only works on a certain person, though. It does not work on everybody.
So let's ask this, because I'm going to bring my experience having seen this happen, and then with something Langston Moore has now sent us. I'll never forget sitting out the early days of the Steve Spurrier. I guess not the early days, but it involved Melvin Ingram, so relatively early days, being coached up by the one and only Law Dog, Brad Lawing, who was known for his motivational techniques, by the way. Right, Preston?
Correct.
Brad Lawing was a master motivator. There was one particular practice with the defensive lineman where Melvin Ingram was maybe not giving it his all. And I'll never forget sitting there. It was during a spring practice, so these were a little bit more laid back. Melvin Ingram not giving it his all. Brad Lawing instructed loudly one of the graduate assistants or analysts that was over there helping to go get a chair for Melvin and go get him a nice big cup of Gatorade. Nobody quite knew what was going on. The assistant brought over a chair and a cup of Gatorade, to which Lawing handed the cup to Melvin and said, "Melvin, you seem tired today. There's not a lot of effort. Please have a seat." And Melvin sat down, and Brad Lawing turned to the rest of them and said, "Since Melvin's so tired today, we're going to do up-downs until he feels like participating at a little bit higher level." And there was a 5 or 6 minute period of up-downs from the rest of the defensive linemen while Melvin Ingram had to sit, watch with his Gatorade. Brad Lawing made him drink the entire cup of Gatorade, asked if he was refreshed and felt better and was ready to participate. Melvin participated, but I don't know how things like that go amongst defensive linemen when motivational tactics like that come into play.
Yeah, that's a tough spot because everybody knows Melvin's the best player on this team. So it's like we can't really say anything here, but it's like, come on, Melvin, please tell them to stop it. And I don't know what type of guy Melvin was. That tactic works on dudes who have a conscience. Some players do not, and they'll just be like, yeah, whatever, man. They're gonna hit us until I feel fine with it. So I imagine with Brad being the master motivator he is, he probably knew that would bother Melvin at some level. And if I had to guess, he probably got it in gear for the rest of the practice. But yeah, that's definitely a master level teacher technique that I would not advise that for any minor league coaches. You have to be a high priest of D-line coaching to do that.
Your former teammate, our good buddy, one of the regulars here on the station, Langston Moore, has sent us a tweet. It is a video of the get on the line coach with his pants. Have you seen this tweet? The pants pulled up well above belly button area, just yelling. And then Langston sends us, maybe we can get a little clarification from you, 22 to 24 loafs in one practice. He says, it wasn't me. It was another Gamecock D lineman. Chuck had one sentence.
Yeah. So in football, they're called loafs. I don't know why they're called loafs. I don't even know what that means. But essentially, it's when you're not playing hard. And one practice, they decided to count them for a particular player who ended up having a very long NFL career. Came from a junior college. One of my good buddies. We had to make up for all of his loafs during that practice, and that was not a lot of fun. I will say that.
803-404-6100. Let's get out to the phone line real quick. Scott wants to weigh in this morning on the game last night. Scott, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey, you know what hurts so bad is when you lose the games that you should win. And we should have won that game. Hell, if we'd have had just 15 turnovers, we'd have probably won the game. But it's not rocket science. I don't understand. I was telling my grandson, why don't they take them to the huddle, tell them to slow down, take their time. They're like rushing their passes, and they're trying to do bounce passes in the middle and things like that because they're trying to rush their passes. I would have told them to slow down, take your time, and don't throw the balls away. And many of the shots they did take when they did get a shot were just crazy shots. They were shooting shots. They were falling backwards and had two people on them, and they tried to shoot the ball. So there's some coaching there. That's coachable. There's some coaching there that needs to be done. I would have slowed the team down and tell them, don't turn the ball over. Make sure you make good passes. You don't have to be in a hurry to pass the ball and get a good shot. And I just can't understand why that could not be accomplished. 25 turnovers is ridiculous.
Appreciate the phone. Yeah, appreciate the phone call, Scott. Preston, I will say one thing. I'd have to go back. This is one where if you're Lamont Paris and the staff, probably on the plane ride home, you analyze each turnover. And what I'm going to say is both stupid and true at the same time. Each turnover is different, and it's different in its own way. Lamont Paris, and we've played some audio clips from him, you could tell he was not particularly pleased. Well, he's not pleased. He was not pleased with his team, the competitive effort of his team, and we'll play that again. But he also wasn't particularly pleased with the officiating and what he thought were a few plays. As he said, I like the way he's worded a few things so that he stays out of trouble. But I do think there is a level of going back. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a coach, and I'm not paid to go back and reanalyze 25 turnovers and rewatch that game. But I do think you have to analyze each turnover and go, was that a legitimate turnover? Was it a player's fault? Or should have there been some kind of whistle on the play? And we'll continue talking about that. We'll continue getting into that. But I think there's an interesting story that popped up yesterday afternoon. A certain former Gamecock linebacker declared for the NFL draft that made me go, huh? We'll get Preston Thorne's take on that as well as a college quarterback that was originally a top 25 pick. Well, now he's declared because I think he's being forced to declare. We'll get into that as well. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family have been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it is that proven experience, that proven history, that is your assurance that they'll get the job done in a timely fashion to keep your operation dry and running long into the future. So give them a phone call today, because 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they are there and ready to help you. 803-356-1919. Again, that's how you can get in touch with Mid-State Roofing today and speak with them about a maintenance contract, something to take care of your house and or your business and make sure that that stays dry and running, because let's be honest, keeping your operation dry and running is very important. You don't want to come and discover a leak. But if you do, if you have a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You'll speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Well, it's pretty nice out there on the highways this morning. Obviously, some of the slowdowns that you typically encounter, but as far as anything significant, any accidents to report, not seeing any of those today. So certainly loving that for your Thursday. 58 will be the high today. It's going to be a little bit windy out there. We'll have some wind gusts, and but otherwise sunny today and tomorrow. Tomorrow's high 57. The rain coming in on Saturday. So we'll see some rain Saturday and then a little bit Sunday morning, 57 and 56 respectively for those days. And then the colder temperatures come back in. By Monday, we're back into the 30s for our daytime highs. So we're 26 currently at 107.5 The Game.
Reminder coming up tomorrow, we will be out at Pro Swing, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 4708 Forest Drive in Columbia. You can stop by and see us. And then coming up at the end of the month, January 30th and 31st, it's the first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic, a 3-day event starting on January 30th. $150 to register. It's a two-man team. Listen to what I'm saying here. A two-man team. I know you know this is virtual golf, kind of like the Tech-infused Golf League, tomorrow's Golf League, the Golf League, whatever we're calling that thing that occurred on Tuesday night with Tiger Woods. It is virtual golf, and it is a two-man team. $150 to register. Bookings are available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Food will be included. You can win $1,000 for first place, $750 for second, or $500 for third. Plus, there'll be a drawing for South Carolina baseball season tickets, just 29 days away from that someone could win just by registering. Again, call Pro Swing today, or come by and visit with us tomorrow and get yourself registered. 803-528-1617. Again, that's 803-528-1617. Again, the first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic coming up, a 3-day event starting January the 30th, $150 to register for a two-man team. So go ahead and get yourself set up or come visit us tomorrow, Preston, where we will be out there and we'll hit some golf balls and do it in a nice, warm environment. And, Jen, I believe, aren't we calling for some snow here in the Midlands next Tuesday? Is that kind of
There's some chatter about that maybe some mixed precipitation next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday or Tuesday? Tuesday?
I've seen a little bit of both.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Get to the store today, folks. Milk and bread for a lot of French toast. Preston, have you made French toast ever before?
Always, all the time. You gotta use brioche, day old brioche to get your French toast right.
Seriously?
And if you really want to get it right, you might use some heavy cream as opposed to just milk, just so you can have a little bit of a thicker batter on it.
I think you're serving breakfast one morning very soon.
Mm-hmm.
I used to make just, out on the farm, I can remember being very cold because, drafty farm and that was one thing I could make as a kid was, French toast. And basically it was just, an egg, the milk, and, whatever bread you had. It wasn't all kinds of fancy like you.
Yeah. Yep. If you want to take it to the next level, that's what you want to do with it.
Good segue. Speaking of taking it to the next level, speaking of guys who may not have to cook their own breakfast anymore, Quinn Ewers yesterday officially announcing for the NFL. Preston, we'll start with him and we'll go to a certain linebacker that announced because I feel like I want to spend more time on that and trying to figure out what exactly occurred here. But Quinn Ewers, this is both unexpected and expected, but I think in two entirely different ways. At the beginning of the year, I thought for sure Quinn Ewers was off to the draft and that Arch Manning would be taking over in 2025. I don't know if this is still the best decision for him after the season we just saw.
Or is it the best decision for him because he did not have a place to land at home in Texas? I feel like Quinn Ewers is going to be the first person that's going to go to the NFL kicking and screaming because he did not have a home in Texas.
You know what? I would agree. No, he did not have a home. That's a great. See, here's the part of this that's very interesting because we now have seen, I believe, the same player make two different decisions. Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck, to me, Preston, tell me if I'm wrong on this, disagree if you're willing, are the same guys. Guys that went into the season with first-round aspirations, first-round projections. Carson Beck, I think at one point was a top 5 pick in some mock drafts about this time last year. Neither lived up to what they were supposed to be. Ewers got hurt in the middle of the season and had a good season. We should point out it's not like Quinn Ewers was stunk this year, but at the same time, I don't know if he did anything this year where NFL teams went, yes, I'll spend a first or second round draft pick on you, Mr. Ewers. Quinn Ewers' numbers for the year, he completed 65% of his passes. That was lower than last year. He threw for 3,472 yards. That was actually 7 yards less than last year. He had 31 touchdowns, 9 more than last year, 12 interceptions, 6 more than last year. But it doesn't feel like he had this huge breakout season that would have him, and I could be wrong in this, but that would project him into the top 2 or even 3 rounds.
Yeah, I don't know. Projections are tough. Obviously, quarterbacks are hard to come by in the NFL. We know that. I could see him going top 3 rounds, I guess, but I haven't seen anything from his performance that would assure me that he had a chance to be more successful than any other third-round quarterback. Like, I don't see any difference between him and, say, Kyle McCord from Syracuse, who just declared also. Both of them, I'm like, okay, we'll see.
It feels like we've got a whole slew of nice backups going into the league, a bunch of Kyle Trasks, if you will, guys that'll be the perennial backups, maybe get a spot start here or there, and that's what Ewers is. Now, I mentioned that because, Preston, I think you're right. I don't know if he had a spot at Texas this year, but he could have pulled a Carson Beck, and I feel like there's a whole bunch of programs out there that would have openly with huge, wide open arms taken in Quinn Ewers to come and pay for a nice chunk of NIL money.
Well, I think Quinn Ewers is going to be somebody who we should follow because I think he's the poster child for the new era of college football. Obviously, coming from Texas, he was the first one we heard of getting some of these alleged big NIL deals going to Ohio State, transferring from there, then getting to Texas. And so I think his story is just really interesting to follow just to see how it ends up working out or how it ends. I'm very curious to follow this story along.
Richard weighs in. Ewers is a fool. He needs to take another year and improve his stock. He can go almost anywhere he wants in college. Both he and Jalen Milroe should have just transferred out to other schools and worked on passing fundamentals and where to go with the ball against certain defenses. I can kind of that's what Carson Beck is doing.
Let me disagree. I don't think that's what Carson Beck is doing.
You think he's just?
I don't think Carson Beck is going to the U in Miami to work on his pass reading progressions. I don't think that's what he's doing.
Let's see. A couple of y'all weighing in. KT from Lexington. Jen, we call that egg bread, is apparently what you were referencing in the Midwest. Okay. Jamie weighs in. Preston's French toast game, absolutely on point. You were right, sir. Brioche and heavy cream, delicious.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Okay, seriously, now I have a plan for the weekend.
Yep. There you go. 803-404-6100. And Rodney weighs in on Preston's loafs. Comes from the word loafing, which is slang for lazy.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Grew up hearing that. Don't be a loafer.
Makes sense. I've heard loafing around. I just never made that connection. And then as I was listening, I was looking at Langston was finishing the story. Charlie Strong made us as the players decide whether or not that particular player was loafing on a particular play. So he would say, "Hey, PT, you think that's a loaf?" And I would say, "No, coach." And you'd say, "BS. Yes, it is." And he would mark it down. And so, it was a no. It's because I can't dime out my guy. But then again, it was a tough spot.
And one more on our punishments. Jacob weighs in. Different Jacob. This one, Jacob says, I told my football coach I was tired in practice and needed a water break. He made me hold the heavy wet water cooler while every player got in line and got a drink of water. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll get to that linebacker. Stone Blanton is going to go pro? All right. Well, as the commercials say, everybody goes pro in something. I don't know. Stone Blanton's going to try the NFL. We'll get into that. 803-404-6100 is the early game.
And out there on the highways this morning, hope your commute is going well. We don't really have any reports of accidents, so fabulous what is today? Thursday. It's a fabulous Thursday morning. Breezy, sunny, 58 for the high today, 57 tomorrow before the rain comes in on Saturday. We stay in the mid to upper 50s for the weekend, but by Monday, temperatures will be dropping into the 30s, so definitely a colder trend. Right now, though, it is for sure it is a little bit cooler. It's sitting at 26 on 107.5 The Game.
Rolling along, 7:35 on your Thursday morning, Jen Jensen. Thursday, you were right. It is a Thursday morning. Getting you ready, talking a little South Carolina basketball from last night, talking some NFL playoffs maybe coming up here. You got 4 games this weekend in Preston between college basketball and between the NFL playoffs. Maybe, just maybe, there's somebody you can call out there to get you a great TV setup that you can watch all of them at one time.
Man, Bill, you time to get yourself set up. Now, it's 26 degrees outside, so you may not want to be outside right now, but the spring is coming. Summer is around the corner. And you can call the good folks at Integrated Media to get yourself set up. You can get Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors, or Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof. You can do all of that. So from home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, call the good folks at Integrated Media. Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. They can help you out. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com. Bill, they can help you out with that. Now, do you think they could have helped you out with the information that came across your social media timeline last night or this morning?
We referring to Stone Blanton?
I am.
Look, Stone Blanton should always, for multiple reasons, have a place in South Carolina fans' heart. He left home. We always talk about guys that if they leave Columbia and they go play elsewhere, we get mad. Stone Blanton left home and came to the University of South Carolina for 2 years. And he has that was number one. That's great. That's awesome. Number two, he has an interception, regardless of who it's against, Jacksonville State, that sealed the victory. And we are forever grateful for that. We should be. With that being said, I'm not sure who got in Stone Blanton's ear. Now, by the way, Preston, have you seen his statistics? Before we just start kind of laughing and giggling at the season Stone Blanton had, have you seen? Are you familiar with his statistics from this past season?
No. Not really. No, not at all, actually.
All right. For those that don't know, statistically speaking, now I don't know why you would have watched a lot of Mississippi State games. They were 2-10, so that right there will keep you out. Stone Blanton was second on the team for Mississippi State with 124 tackles. 95 were assisted. So Preston, we talked about that. There you go.
We might have an Old Dominion case on our hands, but we'll let it slide right now.
95 were assisted. He had 29.
Wait, Bill, stop. You said he had 30 solo tackles and 95 assisted tackles?
29 solos, 124 total.
Okay. All right. Continue.
Half a sack, 3 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. That is going to be the numbers you get for Stone Blanton. Let's go to the serious portion of this. Yes, I saw this information yesterday and went, I will be very interested to follow this and see how he looks, because I don't know if he'll get a combine invite, but I'm going to be very interested to hear where that 40 time is for Stone Blanton, wherever it occurs.
It'll be in the Spencer Rattler. Turn to the Spencer Rattler era of the 40 times, and you'll find it in that era.
4.95 for those of you wondering.
I'll take the over.
For those of you wondering, good for him. That's awesome. He even mentioned, Preston, we talked about this, Jordan Birch the other day, putting out his thank you to Oregon, mentioning he was a kid from Florence. Stone Blanton thanked the University of South Carolina in his I guess what do you want to call it, farewell, I'm leaving post. So there's no reason. I don't want to bang on the kid too much because he's doing this in a classy way, and for all I know, maybe he's going to go and be ultra successful. I can't say that I ever thought Ernest Jones would become the linebacker that he's become, but he did, or he has, and he's made good money for it. But yeah, I'm not sure what to make of this for this young man and what his future is in the NFL.
Bill, while he did thank the University of South Carolina, he did not put a picture of him playing at the University of South Carolina. So what do we do with that?
No, he did put a South Carolina emblem at the bottom, but Preston, you made it very clear in the Jordan Burch thing. If you find a picture that, as you said, is fire, you have to go with it. And apparently he did not. In going through all his pictures, maybe he did not find one that was fire. There is, as I stare at this, it's not him, by the way. It's not him. And I don't know who this is. There is a picture of a Gamecock in the Twitter post.
Oh, there is, yeah. I don't know what that's about.
It's not him, though.
Yeah. Hidden messages all around. I will say the two pictures that he did use, fire.
They're actually good ones. They are good ones. He looks very slim in both. There actually is the picture of him. It's kind of grayed, and he's kind of leaning over right at the top where it says, "After much prayer and thought." That is actually, if you look in.
Okay, that is a Gamecock's out. Okay, all right.
So he did indeed use that.
Okay,
he did indeed. So good for him. But yeah, we'll see where this goes for him. 803-404-6100. Let's get to the phone lines. Nick wants to weigh in on football players this morning. Nick, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey guys, good morning. How are you?
Good.
Hey, I've been talking with a couple buddies the other past couple days, and we're talking about guys that this past year either stayed with their existing team and either helped or hurt their NFL or even future opportunities, or ones that left and hurt or helped. And I'd like to get some of your input. I'm a big Ohio State and South Carolina fan. You guys mentioned Jordan Burch. Did he help by leaving or not? I don't know. I'd love your input on that. Couple guys that, being an Ohio State fan, I don't know if you guys remember the name Julian Fleming.
Mm-hmm.
Julian's a 5-star coming out of high school out of Pennsylvania. Number 2 wide receiver just a year and a half ago at Ohio State, went to Penn State, and I think he caught like 20 passes this year. Probably hurt himself by transferring. So just trying to think names like that. Quinn Ewers, I think he hurt himself. Howard from Ohio State quarterback, I think he helped himself. Kyle McCord going to Syracuse, I think he helped himself leaving, but could have been if he would have stayed with that staff that's at Ohio State. Probably could have stayed, but I would love to hear some of your input on the guys from South Carolina. There was a receiver a couple years back, transferred out suddenly, and I forget his name right now. But, again, he fell out of nowhere where he was a stud here, all SEC and everything. So just love to hear some chatter on that.
I appreciate the phone call, Nick. Preston, quickly, you got anybody that comes to mind who've helped? Jordan Burch, Marshawn Lloyd, why am I blanking on the tight end that went to Jaheim Bell? Jaheim Bell.
Yeah, I don't think for any one of them. Let's talk Jordan Burch specifically. Jordan Burch's numbers as far as productivity-wise were not much different at Oregon than they were here. And they weren't groundbreaking or really eye-popping. That being said, Jordan Burch is going to do everything he needs to do at the combine. He looks amazing in his tights. He's going to run fast. He's going to jump high. He's going to interview well. And so he'll have a great combine. And like I told everybody, despite what his numbers is, don't be surprised if you look up and you see Jordan Burch playing in the NFL for 10-plus years.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour, get back to the phone lines, and talk a little basketball as well. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for the Egton Law Firm. Have you received one of those mean, nasty notices from the IRS? Is it stressing you out, keeping you up at night, causing you some ulcers and heartburn? If so, call attorney John Egton and his team. They're ready to help you. They're the professionals. They know exactly what to do. They have navigated the IRS maze multiple times and helped thousands of families, people just like you, with their business or personal tax issues. So call today and get a free consultation. 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. John Egton and his team are ready to take the stress and worry out of these tax issues that you may be suffering through. Don't let that happen. Call John Egton and his team today, whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Aiken, Augusta, wherever you're listening this morning. John Egton and his team have a idea of how to get you taken care of, but it starts with a free consultation. Make the phone call, 803-771-9800. Wrapping up hour number 2 on your Thursday morning. Again, reminder tonight, right here, 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. We've got Carolina Calls
Reminder
with
coming
Lamont
up
Paris.
tomorrow.
And coming up tonight at 6:30 pregame on 98.5 WOMG. We'll have the South Carolina coverage of the game against Alabama. But you get to hear from Lamont Paris. We'll hear more on his thoughts tonight. And let's go out to the phone lines. Ray wants to weigh in on last night's men's basketball game. Ray, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Yeah, well, I know this has got to be killing Captain Kerry Rich, our coach, Captain Kerry Rich, because I know he played point guard. And in football, Preston, if you don't have a quarterback, you can't win, can you? I mean, you're just probably not going to win. And if you have an average quarterback, it's going to be tough to win. Well, in basketball, your point guard is your quarterback. And right now, we don't have a quarterback. We don't have an average quarterback. We don't have a so-so quarterback. We don't have a quarterback, meaning we do not have a true point guard. And you're going to get 25 turnovers when you don't have a true point guard. I think going forward, Coach Paris, he's got to make sure he has 2 true point guards on that team at all times, because it's going to be hard to win without a point guard, guys. And then I look at Nick Pringle on that last play. That number 99 ate his lunch. I mean, Pringle had possession. That guy just basically tossed him to the side. And then out of frustration, Pringle just throws his hands up and lunges into the guy, knowing you'll get a foul. That was nothing but frustration, guys. And had he not done that, Bowles was in position. CMB, he was in position to play the defense on that guy. But, Nick Pringle, I know this is mean, guys, but if a game is tight and it's in the final 2 minutes, I'm taking him out. He has not proved to be worthy down the stretch. And I'm sorry, and I know I'm being mean, but, hey, these are big boys. You know what I mean? And they got to get it right. But until we get a true point guard on that team, it's just going to be tough. And, Bill, I know you played basketball. Could you win without a point guard, without a true point guard? It'd be very difficult, and we're trying to do that in the toughest league in America. But, hey, guys, thanks for letting me rant.
Yeah. Preston, your thoughts?
I love that phrase, ate his lunch, because that's exactly what happened. I mean, he took the ball from him, essentially. And then what frustrated me more than anything was once, as Ray pointed out, once he got the ball taken from him, he started complaining immediately instead of finishing the play, and then he gets the foul called on him. And so, yeah, I mean, that was just the significance of this dude wanted it. That dude made 2 plays where he showed that he made a play on the defensive end where he stripped the ball from CMB. Then he comes back later, gets an offensive rebound over Nick, and he basically dominated both of our bigs down the stretch.
Couple things on what Ray said. I don't know if I agree with Ray on the standpoint of not having a point guard. You look at the turnovers last night, 5 of them came from Zach Davis, 5 of them came from Colin Murray-Boyles. And as we talked about, several of them were just down low, where Lamont Paris said that, his guys just got stripped down low. And it wasn't just, there were passes that were off to the side. What Ray did say that is true is, yeah, you got to have a point guard. Look, I don't know whether people are going to agree with me or get upset that I'm bringing this up or whatever. If Frank Martin had a point guard, and he did 1 year, he did 1 or 2 years, but if he'd have had a point guard, there's a lot of those Frank Martin teams that go to the NCAA tournament. And I could never figure out with Frank Martin why he kept trying to shove guys that weren't point guards into that point guard role instead of going out and recruiting one, such as he did with his best Kansas State team in Jacob Poulin, and such as he did with his best South Carolina team in P.J. Dozier. Obviously, he had Ra Felder set to back him up, and then Ra Felder got in trouble. But I never understood that, Preston, and I really think those Frank Martin teams, several of them, if they have legitimate point guards, not A.J. Lawson or Hassani Gravett or some of the other guys that got kind of shoehorned into those positions, Jermaine Cousinard, having a legit point guard, those teams would have been different. I do think Jacoby Wright is more of a point guard, and you look at his statistics from last night, again, he had 3 turnovers. He had 2 assists as well. I'm not real sure if I think Morris Ugasuk is a point guard or not. I'm trying to figure out his game more and more as we go along. But he had 4 turnovers last night. But again, Colin Murray-Boyles, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 3 fouls, 5 turnovers, 2 blocks, 2 steals. That's a pretty active night right there for the big fella. He's still got to play a little bit better, though, coming down the stretch.
Yeah, no doubt. Because when it comes down to this time and you have these teams go into these stretches at the ends of games where they cannot get a bucket, you're supposed to be the first-round guy or the NBA guy We need to be able to go to you to get a bucket, or at least be able to go to you, get the ball to you, as Lamont pointed out, so that you could draw a double and then somebody can hit an open shot. But they weren't able to do any of those things.
803-404-6100. We'll get to some more text messages. Texter weighs in. Says teaspoon of vanilla extract enhances French toast.
Yes.
Now we cooking.
There you go. 803-404-6100 for more French toast recipes or add-ins. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. Hour 3 on the way. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. Let me ask you, are you thinking about your roof 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Are you thinking about the heavy spring rains that could be coming down the pipe or the heavy winds that might affect your roof? Probably not. You're probably not at all, but you should be. Mid-State Roofing is there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're ready to take your phone call and help you with a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Whether it's your business, whether it's your home, wherever you're at, Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, Charleston, Greenville, Spartanburg. You get the point. Anywhere in this fantastic state of South Carolina, Mid-State Roofing is ready to take care of you. So whether it's a high-rise or a hospital, manufacturing, or industrial, Mid-State Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that'll, again, and this is important, keep your operation dry and running long into the future. 803-356-1919. Call Mid-State Roofing today. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
Bush River Road at I-20 have a report of an accident there. Also, I-20 eastbound at I-26, a tie-up, and I-20 eastbound after Broad River Road, also an accident. So I owe you an apology because I was talking about how great it was going this morning, and now all of this. So I apologize. We're looking for a high today of 58, 57 tomorrow and Saturday. Today it's going to be breezy and sunny, lots of sunshine tomorrow. Then that rain comes in on Saturday. And the weekend will sit in the upper 50s before the cooling trend returns on Monday. But right now, still a little on the brisk side. Want to be bundled up at least to get where you're going. It's 26 on 107.5 The Game.
Yeah, well, we got some touches in there. They stripped the ball. I never seen so many clean strips in my entire life. That's just a factual statement. So I don't think I can get in trouble for saying that. I never seen so many clean strips in my whole life. I've been doing this for a long time. I just never been on a team. Now, I've also never seen 25 turnovers, I don't think, that we did. So, but we got the ball around there. It was, a lot of activity. They fronted. They fronted, and then we would flash high, and we weren't competitive. I just don't think we competed to get a catch. That's why we got bogged down with some of the plays that we wanted to run to get the ball inside. Start off with a catch on the wing, and we couldn't get a catch on the wing. They ran through a couple of them for layups, trying to get a catch on the wing. So we started going to other stuff that didn't involve a catch on the wing, and it just was, they outcompeted us. They were more active than us. I just thought they were. They just were significantly more active than us, and then we didn't play well. We just so many turnovers. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time getting over how many times we turned the ball over. It's more than a third of the time that we got the ball, we turned it right back over. That's bananas.
Yeah. The voice of Lamont Paris, and I hate to laugh. I've coached. Preston, you've coached. There's a lot of us, whether it's Little League or maybe middle school sports or high school sports or even higher up, you've coached. And your team just goes out there and does something, and you hear the almost confusion by Lamont Paris. And there's a lot to take away, Preston, from that. And let's start with something. We talked a lot about his turnovers, but he says they didn't compete. And you could tell he wasn't pleased with their effort. And we are now 17. Last night was game 17, but I feel like that's something we heard in game 1.
We've been hearing this the whole season. Whether it was the rebounding early in the season, which, by the way, they did out-rebound Vandy this particular game. But that was the problem early in the season. Now he says particularly that they weren't competing for catches. So whether that was guys in the post making themselves available or on the wings just being very passive as far as waiting to receive the ball. Again, when I listen to Lamont talk, he doesn't mince words. He does it in maybe a more collegial academic way, but he doesn't mince words when talking about the shortcomings of his teams.
He in a Lamont, that clip we just played though is the most Lamont Paris clip ever, because he expresses his disappointment in the officiating,
right,
by saying that he's never seen so many clean strips. He's never seen that. He expresses his disappointment in his team's competitive spirit. Doesn't do it by yelling and screaming. Doesn't do it by pounding his hand on the table and jarring a water bottle. He expresses his disappointment with turnovers by saying he's still trying to, he apologizes. You never want your coach apologizing for what they're trying to wrap their brain around, right? Like, you talk about the get on the line. That's the one where you hear that comment and you're like, oh, coach is apologizing for talking about something excessively. I got a bad feeling about tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
But he does
back to the turnovers.
He does it in a calm manner. Doesn't raise his voice. Doesn't really throw anybody under the bus. Gets as close to the bus as he can with his money, saying that he is pretty sure he can't be fined by saying, because you know what he's saying. He's saying that the officiating was bad.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't agree with that. But he also doesn't blame that. He says, hey, we had 20. He goes, I've never been a part of a team who had 25 turnovers. And as a player, if you're on your ride back, if you're on the plane ride back and you're scrolling through your phone and you accidentally come across those quotes that you probably didn't want to come across, you're like, oh, better get a good night rest when we get back. Maybe class is not where I need to be tomorrow. Maybe I should be resting up for practice.
When you hear your coach say, I have never been a part of something like this, it's, oh my gosh. Oh, what a terrible feeling.
Gamecocks go down last night, 66-63 in Nashville. As Preston pointed out early on in the program, in the first hour, it's one thing to lose, and it's one thing to lose when it's your team, and you kind of have to sit through 40 minutes of basketball. But neither team was very pretty last night. It was an ugly game. Obviously, South Carolina 25 turnovers, 12 turnovers for Vanderbilt. South Carolina was 7 of 16 from three-point range. 3 of 4 of those came from Morris Ugasuk. Vanderbilt was 4 of 21 from three-point range. Both teams fine from the foul line. Gamecocks 18 of 23 from the foul line. Vanderbilt 16 of 21 from the foul line. Preston, you mentioned it. Gamecocks do out-rebound Vanderbilt last night, 37-25. Both teams, in terms of fouls called, both teams had 18 fouls called. Again, if you're just looking at the pure numbers in this, a lot of them are very similar. There is a difference in 15 steals by Vanderbilt, who led the league coming in to 7. But Preston, I think the number that stands out the most to me, because of those 25 turnovers, and because, as Lamont Paris pointed out, many of them were in the lane around the basket, Vanderbilt had 56 attempts, 56 shots last night to just 45 for South Carolina. And you go, why does that matter? 11 more shots. If South Carolina has 11 more shots, they win the ball game, right? Like, they make 3 or 4 of those, and they win the ball game.
Yeah, I think that's not a far-fetched idea at all. I'm curious to think, Bill, was your issue more with the clean strips or the quote-unquote, I'm doing air quotes, aggressive ball handling that Vanderbilt was using towards the end of the game?
Referencing
the Vanderbilt play of give it to the fullback and let him run a guy over.
So as you say that, I'm watching right now. They're showing the highlights from last night, and A.J. Hoggard at the very end drives in. The South Carolina fan in me says, "Oh, that was a foul. He shoved him off." The non-biased person does not see Hoggard's arm extend out. That I think it's a blatant foul. Preston, I think you got to get your chest in front. I think you got to be physical on defense, and you've got to be willing to absorb contact. Now, that's just me. I could talk to Coach Harris. I could talk to Tim Whipple. I could talk to Brett Jones over at Dutch Fork. We're all going to have – I could talk to you, and even though you're not a true basketball guy, I feel like everybody's going to have a different philosophy on what Vanderbilt was doing down the stretch with – being ultra physical. They were daring the referees to call fouls. They were daring them to call fouls, and it simply didn't happen in the manner that maybe it should have. But to me, Preston, you went from a team last year in Talon Cooper, who was big and physical. He was more of a linebacker than maybe some guy who just declared for the NFL draft out of Mississippi State that we knew one day. Talon Cooper was that big physical guy, and he could handle all that. We talked about this was something you and I talked about at the beginning of the season. The way Talon Cooper could defend is the impact it had on the South Carolina defense. Zach Davis is on the defense, is the defender last night on that final play in which Hoggard is able to get open for a shot. He doesn't make it. McLaughlin grabs the rebound and puts it back. But Talon Cooper in that situation, you put your shoulder in him, he probably doesn't go anywhere. He probably knocks Hoggard off balance even more, maybe causes a turnover. No offense to Jacoby Wright. No offense to Arden Conyers, no offense to Zach Davis, no offense to Morris Ugasuk. They're lengthy defenders, but they're not physical defenders. And that's part of what's changed. Talon Cooper, even Michie Johnson was built like a running back, Preston. He wasn't built like one of those skinny, thin, prima donna wide receivers that you always talk about. This team is not a strong physical team, and you've seen that and how it's changed the defense from last year to this year, and then go down low. Nothing against Nick Pringle. I think Nick Pringle's been playing mean and physical in the post. But B.J. Mack was a wide body. If he got those thighs and that rear end into you, you weren't getting that rebound. He was coming down with it even though he couldn't jump over a broom. There's a lot of basketball stuff in there that I just shared, a lot of the basketball analogies of you can't jump over a broom, but he'd get that rear end into you, and he knew how to box out, and you weren't getting the ball. He was a big, husky. You like that word, husky? He was a big, husky, physical player.
Yeah, and this is obviously a different team, but yes, you're right. I love what you said about that. Vandy dared the referees to call a foul, and they never did it. And so after you know that that's what Vandy's strategy is going to be, you got to step up. And like you said, whether it was because they were not physically capable or they weren't able to step up to that challenge, they kind of put them on their hips and they took them for a ride.
803-404-6100. So that's a lot of thoughts on last night's game. Again, there's a lot to take away from it, and really none of it is good. None of it is good. And the Gamecocks are now 0-4 in conference play. They're 10-7 overall. And Preston, the worst part about this, as I said yesterday, I'm okay. I was okay at the beginning of the season if they didn't make the NCAA tournament. I knew how difficult that would be. I was okay if they weren't living up to what they created last year and winning 20 games this year. I was okay with certain things. What I would not be okay with, and that I think is going to be a fight, even though you're 3 games above 500 right now, what's going to be a fight is to stay above 500 for the season. It's not a good look to go from 26-11 to having a losing record in year 3.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's absolutely not a good look.
You know, we know what Shane Beamer had winning seasons his first 2 years. Year 3, they went 5-7. We know how everybody felt about the football program at that point. When you have, especially, again, that was coming off a Gator Bowl. That was coming off the high of Shane Beamer's tenure, which now he's able to top this year. We'll see where it goes. 803-404-6100. Real quick, Preston, they were just, again, showing here on our televisions in front of me the statistics. South Carolina against Auburn, and you brought this up Monday and yesterday. South Carolina against Auburn, coming down the stretch, those final 5 minutes, was 0 of 6 from the field to close out that game and allow Auburn to come in and win it. Last night, 1 of 7 from the field coming down the stretch in the final 5 minutes.
And that's got to go to me. That talks to your best player. If whoever your best player is needs to be able to get a bucket at the end of the game, and in 2 games straight, the best player has not done that.
803-404-6100. If I see several of y'all weighing in, I'll try and get to some of the text messages here and get to that. We'll get back to our worst punishments. A lot of you athletes out there, what do you remember back in the day? Get on the line. What was the call for crab walks? Get down, up downs?
Oh, that's hit it.
Hit it.
Hit it.
There you go. There you go. We'll get into some of that as we roll along this morning. 803-404-6100. If you want to weigh in, we'll get back to the phone lines as well. You're listening to the early game.
They do say that perfection is a journey, and our journey, it led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin when we had to get some countertops for some bathroom cabinets that we had installed. Great experience. The first time we toured their showroom, man, it's awesome. You really should check it out. They explained to us their commitment to affordable marble and granite and quartz. They're all about the education and learning about it. A lot of selection there that was available. Every step of the process, I promise you, was great from start to finish in both instances. And that's why we returned to them. And I'm telling you, if you have countertops that you're going to be needing for a kitchen or for a bath, I encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman. And I can't wait to tell you more about some of the outdoor hardscaping that they've been doing as well. But reach out to them today. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. They are family owned and operated. Carolina Stone Craftsman, just beyond Columbia in Chapin and beyond your expectations. CarolinaStoneCraftsman.com. Still working an earlier tie-up, Bush River Road at I-20, and also I-20 eastbound there just after Broad River Road. And, yeah, we're looking for some kind of breezy conditions today. It's going to be sunny, though, 58, 57 tomorrow with lots of sunshine, and then the rain comes in for Saturday. Looking for highs Saturday, 57 with rain, 56 on Sunday. Then we get into the 30s for at least the first part of next week. So we'll kind of soak all this in for our daytime highs while we can. But you do want to bundle up this morning for sure, and even for the next couple mornings. Right now, it's sitting at 26 on 107.5 The Game.
$8:19 here on your Thursday morning. Reminder about our craft beer card, just $59. You can go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and save around $300. Again, that's our craft beer card for 2025, just $59. Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and purchase your craft beer card today. Let's get one more basketball thought in here, and then we're going to move on to some Sam Darnold stuff and Preston's Vikings. But Hank has been waiting. Hank weighing in on last night's game. Hank, what's your thoughts?
Hey, Bill, I was calling when you were talking about the looking at those last couple of plays, and then I think the issue was it wasn't that they didn't make a call; it was the call they were making. It was kind of strange. The commentators of the game the first time when they gave Jacoby Wright his third, fourth, and fifth foul, his third foul, the commentators kind of played it back and backed it up and said, "Well, there's nothing he can do unless the official calls that." Because the guy went right into his chest. And then he did it two more times. And so they talked about it for 2 or 3 minutes after Jacoby had fouled out. They were like, what is he to do if a guy just puts his shoulder down and go with him? He didn't extend the arm, but he put his shoulder down. It was just bumping back. And, of course, he would make the basket, but then they would call the foul on Jacoby. You know, if they're going to give him the basket, just don't call the foul. But that took Jacoby out of the game right there at the end. In a moment where you're still at a 1 or 2 point game. And so that's the issue where I think, two things. You got to get, your rail, you got to get the officials, or the officials got to at least say, if we're not going to call that, then that lets Colin them know what they're going to do on the other end. And then I think for Colin, it's going back to your Baltimore days. Sometimes at the end of these games, if this is where we're going to be, and you don't think you're getting the fouls, you got to go gangster at basket. And that means you go in there, you're going to take a foul, you're going to knock somebody out, you're going to make the official say, oh, hey, we might need to clean this up.
Yeah, thank you for the phone call, Hank. Look, this is a broad basketball discussion that, Preston, we could get, again, Bailey Harris in here, Tim Whipple, our good friends, Aaron Lucas and JoJo English. And, I had a conversation one time with Frank Martin that I thought was very interesting, and it was him discussing with me the size of the court, not the length of the court, the width of the court, and how players are growing and getting bigger, and the game is becoming faster and more physical, and referees not knowing how to officiate the game. And look, the officiating didn't cost South Carolina last night. It didn't help them at all. But it also was not the reason they lost. They had some really bad turnovers, and they really didn't take care of the ball well either. But the officiating did not help at all. But I wonder if we're seeing a transition in how to call some of these things, such as offensive fouls, offensive charges, when a player is able to lower his shoulder, get his shoulder into a defender's chest, create separation, and then be able to get a shot off. And is it an offensive foul? I think by the book, yes. But is it something now that has kind of been a blind eye has been turned to? I think so also.
I just had it's a big picture thought, but that's the type of ball that everybody played. Well, a lot of people, maybe from previous generations, played growing up. Like the game starts getting a little testy, and you just drop your shoulder into them, and then I put my chest against you, and maybe eventually we fight. But it didn't seem as if our players had the response to that. Like, okay, I know what you're about to do. This is what I'm about to do, and then we have to deal with the consequences later. Nobody seemed to bow up at that, what they knew was coming. They were waiting for obviously the refs were not going to call it, as Hank said, after Jacoby got his third, fourth, and fifth foul on it. By the time it gets around to you, Zach, you either you gonna step up or you're gonna let them do it to you again, and they let them do it to him again.
Well, I don't know if you say let them do it to him again. Look, I wasn't a big dude, and I remember playing Preston 2-on-2, 3-on-3, and bully ball would happen. And if somebody bigger than me, they just smile. The next thing I'm in the post, and I'm getting elbowed in the face and taking a shoulder to the chin because I'm trying to match up. And
what was your response? I know you had some tricks to respond to it. You pull on this shirt, you hit him in the knee, you throw it. There's always a counter. You can say that, but there's always something. You got to stay there and let it happen.
I'll admit, a lot of times this was with friends, and friendship limits got pushed.
Exactly.
Friendship limit.
We don't have to be friends after this. We can be friends tomorrow, but during this pickup game, when you drop your shoulder into me, yeah, there's all types of things that can happen. As I'm saying, like, it just never felt as if we had a response. It's like, hey, ref, look what he's doing to me.
All right. Yeah. 803-404-6100.
Please stop him, please.
Yeah, it was. So we'll see. We'll see what Lamont Paris does to kind of change or try and alter that. Speaking of change or altering, Preston Thorne, you've got big decisions to make. I think you might be onto. I think you might be onto something, by the way, where maybe at the beginning of the season, beginning of next NFL season, we put a bunch of the little NFL helmets in a bag or something, and we draw them out. And that's our team that we have to root for this year. You went to following the Minnesota Vikings strictly because of J.J. McCarthy. He gets injured. Sam Darnold comes in, and now, after a fairly good year, decisions have to be made.
Well, Bill, it wasn't a fairly good year. We were 14-4. We were 14-4. We went to the first round of the playoffs. Unjustly, I think. We lost. But here's the issue. You're right. I became a Vikings fan this year, Skull Nation, because of my guy, J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. Now Sam Darnold comes in. I stick around. But here's the issue. Sam Darnold's contract is up. And what should we do as Skull Nation? Do we re-sign Sam Darnold and let our hero, J.J. McCarthy, sit on the bench for another year? Do we waste all of this cap money on Sam Darnold for him to be sitting on the bench behind J.J. McCarthy? This is a very difficult situation for us.
Let's start with this. What would Preston Thorne do?
Well,
what does General Manager Thorne do?
Yeah, Sam Darnold, you got to go. Thank you. We appreciate your services. It's been really fun. We can sign another backup quarterback for a lot less money and use that cap money to improve the rest of our team.
See, that's the thing here is I think you sign Sam Darnold, but it's what you just said. It's the money. It's the money. Yeah. What is he willing – and here's the thing. Is he willing to play on a one-year contract? Sam Darnold's agent – is telling, who knows what Sam Darnold's agent is actually telling him, but that's the thing is, did Sam Darnold do enough now to trick some poor franchise into a $200 or $300 million contract over 4, 5, 6 years to bring his services to their franchise? And I'm trying to very quickly, like if you're the Titans and you got the number 1 pick, is this the direction you're willing to go because you now believe Sam Darnold has turned a corner and is now the face of the franchise? If you're the Browns, I'm looking at you. You're in a bit of trouble here. I don't know if Deshaun Watson's ever playing football again. If you're the Browns, this does feel like a Browns thing, by the way. Brown, right? This feels like the Browns. So let's give a huge contract to Sam Darnold because he had one good year.
Yeah, he had a good year up until the last 2 games that really counted, and then he was not good at all.
Right. Raiders. The Raiders could use a quarterback. The Giants are in the market for a quarterback. maybe the Saints. Are the Saints in the market for a quarterback?
Well, depending on how they feel about Spencer Rattler, but yes.
Well, I was thinking with Carr, but yeah.
I would say yes.
Yep. So we'll see.
I just don't know what you. To me, you don't want to waste any more time on JJ McCarthy on his rookie deal. And if you think he was the guy he apparently was going to be the starter, I think you move forward in that direction.
Yeah, the only thing is I would love, if it was me, if I had, I'd love to give him one more year, but I don't think you're going to get that luxury because I think Sam Darnold right now is looking at this as his big payday. This is where he collects his lifetime contract to get him to whatever phase of life he wants to go. And that's probably why, to answer your question, you can't go. Now it's a matter of kind of looking around the league and being like, which team is going to freak out first and sign Sam Darnold to some ludicrous contract he doesn't deserve.
Somebody will do it. The Jets, will he reunite with the Jets?
Oh, boy. Even he shouldn't. Even he's got to be smarter than that. Even he. 803-404-6100. Come back. We'll get back into a little bit more of the basketball. And several of y'all weighing in on sports punishments. Had to run up and down the stadium bleachers all practice due to wrestling captain catching me pulling on a lung dart cigarette during lunchtime circa 1983. You ever run stadium bleachers? We'll talk about it. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Zero Risk Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. You've got the house looking nice and spiffy clean right now. You're coming fresh off of those Christmas parties, those New Year's parties. But have you thought about your carpets, your rugs, your tile, your upholstery? Did you only worry about de-Christmasing the house? Well, guess what? Zero Risk Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is ready to help you get those carpets, rugs, tile, upholstery all looking insanely clean again because with their patented ZR water technology that leaves no soap, no residue, and no harsh chemicals, Zerorez is the perfect way to get those carpets, rugs, tile, upholstery looking clean for 2025. So give them a phone call today, 803-262-4020, and take advantage of their New Year's sale. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119. And when you mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, you get a hallway cleaned for free. Again, that's 803-262-4020 or schedule with ease online, ZerorezColumbia.com. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Bush River at I-20 still reporting that accident, as well as I-20 eastbound at Broad River Road. I-77 southbound right there at exit 1, right there at I-26, a report of an accident there. And 277 southbound at Sunset Boulevard, also a report of a slowdown. 58 today, 57 tomorrow, lots of sunshine both days. Rain coming in on Saturday and a little bit Sunday morning as well. We'll still be in the 50s before we get into the 30s starting on Monday. So enjoy the sunshine today and tomorrow, a little bit milder temperatures. But we are starting off the morning a little on the cool side. It's 27 on 107.5 The Game.
.35 as we roll along here, final segments of the Thursday morning show. Reminder, we will be out at Pro Swing tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 6 to, well, we're out there all day. The station's out there all day. We are out from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., but then the station will continue to be there. So you can come by at any point during the day and hang out with myself and Preston or with Tyler and the Gamecock Central crew. Maybe you want to see Terry or Elijah or Jay Phillips. We'll be out at Pro Swing, 4708 Forest Drive in Columbia all day tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Come by, hit some golf balls, hang out, check out their new facility there. It's going to be warmer tomorrow, Jen. High 50s, mid 50s?
Yeah, it's about the same as today. It's going to be 58 today and about 57 tomorrow.
Okay, so there you go. But you can play a little indoor golf and hang out and chill with us. So plan to put that on your calendar and come by tomorrow morning or some point tomorrow and see the 107.5 The Game crew. Also tomorrow, 6 o'clock, Carolina Calls with Lamont Paris. Right here, 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach, and tomorrow evening, 6:30 pregame on 98.5. 98.5, that's going to be our home for the women's games during the week on Thursdays. 98.5 WOMG will have the South Carolina-Alabama pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off for Dawn Staley's team tonight. 803-404-6100. Let's go through some of these text messages real quick here, Preston. Walt weighs in. He would like to formally invite Preston to support Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. You're welcome, he says.
Hey, listen, they had a great season this year. I do like the new ownership. I might be up for it. I still, like I said, I need to see what happens with the Vikings, what we choose to do at quarterback. But listen, it's a year-to-year. I'm on a year-to-year contract every year on my NFL team. Thank you for the invite.
There you go. You have formal invitation. Positive takeaway from last night from this texter on the South Carolina game. Says the thing I took away from the game, Benjamin Bosman-Verdonk has big muscles. Wait. I was trying to keep up a statistic, but I lost count. I didn't want to go backwards. Benjamin Bosman-Verdonk was on the floor at least 10 times in the first half. Now, I don't know how much of it was him being unathletic or him actually hustling. I think there's a pretty even split, but he plays on the floor a lot. It was just an observation. Not on the stat chart is, as I look here, as I scan, not on the stat chart is Benjamin Bosman-Verdonk's minutes spent laying on the floor. Not on the floor. 14 minutes and 2 seconds was playing time. We don't have a statistic of times he fell on the floor.
Well, see, even when you say fell on the floor, because sometimes I think he dove on the floor, but then other times I think he fell on the floor. And that's why I can't figure out the difference.
803-404-6100. Mike weighs in. 6 inches was the absolute worst punishment. Lay flat on back, heels 6 inches off the ground, and hold. That's a plank, isn't it?
No, it's the inverse plank. It's backwards. And so you gotta hold your legs up off the ground, and then say spread them, close them, spread them, and then it's terrible. And then somebody's cheating. Somebody has their legs up higher. Then when the coach is not looking, you put your legs up or you put your legs down. A lot of ways to beat the 6 inches system, though. So that's one that I never felt too bad about because I could always get around that one.
Silas in Ridgeway says anyone that played football at Fairfield Central vividly remembers the hill next to the practice field. Preston, was there an area that should be remembered amongst Summerville football players for punishments?
We too had a hill. Yes, hit the hill. Go to the hill.
803-404-6100. If you want to weigh in on your, I think we laugh now, right? We laugh
at the sports punishments.
At the sports punishments.
Yeah, it's all in good fun. You learned lessons, and you probably deserved it.
Okay. Yeah.
They were painful at the time, but you know what? You're young.
Yeah, exactly.
We said we didn't have. I don't think we really had. We didn't have punishments. We didn't. I don't remember punishments, and I remember running. We had to run, but I don't remember anything like being specifically punishment. Like.
Yeah, running seems to be like the really big thing, like I'd see that with Trent playing baseball, run the poles, you'd see that. And we had the down and backs occasionally that you had to do extra ones of that nonsense. Or again, running the bleachers. I just always thought that was kind of dangerous, to be honest.
Running the bleachers. Well, it depends on what school you were at. I mean, if you were at a school that had rickety old bleachers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Preston, did Lou Holtz ever have to have y'all run the stadium stairs?
Several Fridays for lots of summers in a row. Yes. That makes you gain an appreciation because the home side steps are a lot shorter than the visitor side.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever keep up and count how many stairs at Williams-Brice Stadium?
I never did. I never counted how many, but you could just know the side that the team is on. Those stairs are a lot closer than when you get to the student section and over there by the visitor side, a lot further apart.
803-404-6100. Speaking of Lou Holtz, Preston, your former coach, does he have a beef with Ryan Day? Remember what happened? Was it last year or 2 years ago?
We gotta bring this whole story up, and we can keep it going. But yes, and here's the thing: you cannot get into a war of words with Lou Holtz. You will lose.
We will get into it as Lou Holtz in the news cycle yet again, questioning Ohio State's toughness. Dave Portnoy has responded. We patiently await the response from Ryan Day. We'll find out what Preston Thorne thinks of his former coach when we come back. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Did you hear the weather forecast for next week? Did you hear about potential snow and low 30s as the high? Well, I hope your heating and air unit is working properly. See, I don't have to worry about that because about 2 years ago, AAA Heating and Air came out to the house, put a brand new heating and air unit in at the house, and it has worked absolutely fantastic ever since then. Not only has it kept the house nice and warm in the winter, nice and cool during the summer, but the thing that I loved about AAA Heating and Air when they came out, they explained how it would help save with energy cost, and that's just one of the great things that the staff there does. So it's time for you to call AAA Heating and Air and take advantage of some of their deals going on. How about a 15-year parts and labor transferable warranty or 0% interest for qualified buyers, guaranteed financing? AAA Heating and Air's got you taken care of. Give them a phone call today. Get a replacement estimate. You can get that for free and then purchase a brand new unit. 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
People think I'm anti-Ohio State. Nothing could be further from the truth. I was raised in the state of Ohio. I went to college at Kent State in Ohio. Our motto, we can't read, we can't write, but we are Kent State. I coached at Ohio State under Woody Hayes. We won the national championship. There's no coach that's had a greater influence on my philosophy and my belief as a coach than Woody Hayes. So I love Ohio State. It's just that they have a statue of me at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a very special place. As I would say to our team all the time, remember, man, we're Notre Dame and they ain't. And I use the word ain't for emphasis, not to illustrate the caliber of education I received at Kent State University. So thank you for watching me. Let's hope I'm right.
Does that bring back memories?
You'll never win a War of Words against him, man. I'm just telling Ryan Day, I don't think this is what you want to do. I don't think you want to get into a battle of wits, even with the elder, maybe a little bit. Nah, this guy he's too good. He's too good. You don't want to get into a War of Words with Lou Holtz.
They're listening to him talk, and it's been, think about it. It's been 20 years since he left the program. He left in 2004, and this would have been the 20-year anniversary of that, Preston. And have we done enough to honor him? Because I know it didn't end particularly well, but I can't, just listening to his voice, listening to him talk. I don't know if he remembers coaching here at the University of South Carolina. I don't know if he's blocked that period out, but just listening to him brings back fond memories of press conferences and other things he would say when he was here.
Yeah, definitely not the vanilla coaches that we're used to nowadays. There was always going to be some sort of turn of phrase, some sort of joke, some sort of twist in the phrasing that he was going to use. And like I said, when you heard it every day for 5 years, you kind of got annoyed with it. But then now you're like, oh, there's my old blanket right there. Put my fuzzy blanket on. Let me listen to Coach Holtz talk a little while.
We will get more into the championship game tomorrow. Preston, unfortunately, next week, you probably have to pay off your bet to our buddy Saki and his Ohio State team on our live stream. But, I was talking, Terry Ford came in here during one of the breaks. Is this becoming okay, I'm going to speak for myself and try and make it understandable to how I feel and see if others feel this way. I don't typically have a rooting interest in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is pretty much, to me, anticlimactic. It's one game. Very rarely do we get a great game. We do occasionally get those ones that we remember and talk about, but very rarely do we get the great game, the great Super Bowl game. It's more about being around friends, having the party, enjoying the food, enjoying the commercials. There is not a party on Monday night. There is, I'm sure somebody's having one. I'm sure some people are getting together for a national championship party, definitely in South Bend and in Columbus. But Preston, I'm trying to put my finger on it why I'm so disinterested in this game. Is it the teams? Is it the fact that it's on a Monday night and it's not a Super Bowl-esque, hey, let's check out the commercials, let's have good food, let's have camaraderie? Or do you feel the same way on this? Because it almost feels like more of like a chore that I have to do on Monday night to watch this game.
I think that's fair. I think I felt like this for all of the national championships, even in the 4-team era, just because they're so late. And remember, before they were starting the games at like 9 o'clock or whatever they were starting them, it did always feel like a chore for these particular games. But yeah, for a lot of reasons, it does feel like, all right, man, I'm going to watch, but I'm not necessarily excited about it.
Well, again, we'll get more into this game. I'm intrigued. I'll be intrigued to know what more people think about this. Just viewing it, where, especially here in South Carolina, especially here in Columbia, college football is the 365-day-a-year thing. We want to talk Gamecocks. We want to talk third-string offensive linemen. We want to talk about the upcoming season. We want to talk about spring practice. We want to talk about the transfer portal. And yet, it feels like it's just like, oh, man. We got one more college football game to go. Let's get this thing over and move on to 2025. And I think you were at the forefront of this. I don't know if everybody feels that way, and that's why I'm kind of asking if everybody does indeed kind of feel that way, where it's like, okay, I'm going to watch it because I feel like I'm supposed to watch it, but I'm not really excited about having to watch it.
Yeah, they might not. And I think that'd be a poll that we could take maybe next week, like how you feel at the end of this. Because as I said, this college football season was one of the most fun seasons I've experienced in a long time as a fan. Probably a lot because we were good, but also, I mean, there were just great games all around the map. And so it kind of just seems like it's anticlimactic, as you stated.
So we'll get more into that. I would assume both teams, neither having to do any particular punishments this morning. Greg from Sumter weighs in. And Preston, tell me if you've heard of this. My punishment for my players when I coached was called Squirm the Worm.
Oh, yeah. Squirm the worm. Yeah.
It says they had to lay down on their stomach on the goal line and squirm all the way to the other goal line with their hands behind the back. They hated it. Also had them lay parallel to the goal line and roll all the way to the other goal line.
Yep. Familiar with both of them. Squirm the worm, and I believe we call those barrel rolls, where you just roll 100 yards and you probably get to the other end and throw up. I'm not sure what the point of that was, but yeah, it was punishment.
He does say that a few times they fertilized the field with their throwing up. As you just said, what would be the point of rolling 100 yards?
Other than to punish them.
But like I guess if you're allergic to grass, which is a problem if you're playing football anyway, but like
there were no allergies back then, Bill.
But I would think you almost get dizzy after a while, isn't that?
Is that what it is, Preston? You get dizzy?
Yeah, you just get dizzy, you throw up. I guess that's the point. I don't know what the point of that was.
Okay. Sounds like that probably is now outlawed in high school.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that one anymore.
Okay. But the squirm the worm just sounds like a straight punishment. Like that sounds like I'm just not happy with y'all and we need to kill about 20 minutes in practice. Here's what you got to do.
Fair. Yes, I will. I have done both of those. Yes.
Alex weighs in. I actually remember this. Actually, I don't remember this with Alex, but Alex says high school basketball team summer camp at Presbyterian. 6 a.m. runs before we played 5 or 6 games later that day for our team, ambushing other team dorms by jumping on top of them and giving them body punches, basically picking fights. I forgot the one time Bailey did punish us. We had a huge water fight at PC team camp, and he had people out there running at 2 a.m. in the morning. That was a punishment.
See, it sounds like all these people who responded actually needed these punishments.
Very true. Y'all have a great day.